First story. Am I the a-hole here for kicking my parents out of my wedding after they tried to bring my estranged brother? I, 29 male, recently married the love of my life, 27 female. The wedding was everything we dreamed of except for one major issue caused by my parents. For context, I am estranged from my older brother, Luke, 35 male. He bullied me relentlessly throughout my childhood, verbally, emotionally, and even physically. My parents always downplayed it, brushing it off as normal sibling stuff. But it wasn't. Luke made my life hell for years, and when I finally went no-co-CT with him 5 years ago, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. My parents, however, have never accepted my choice. They constantly try to guilt me into reconciling, saying family is everything and Luke has changed. I've stood firm, though, because I know letting him back into my life would only bring pain. When my fiancé and I were planning our wedding, I made it clear to my parents that Luke was not invited. I even told them if they tried to bring him, they'd be asked to leave. They reluctantly agreed, or so I thought. The day of the wedding, as we're greeting guests before the ceremony, I see my parents walk in, with Luke. My heart sank. I immediately pulled them aside and asked what the hell they were doing. My mom said they couldn't leave him out because he's still family and thought once I saw him, I'd get over it. I was furious. I told them they had two options, either they leave with Luke or they leave without him, but he wasn't staying. My dad started arguing, saying I was being dramatic and ruining my own wedding, while my mom started crying about how I was tearing the family apart. I stood my ground and told them to leave. In the end, they stormed out with Luke, and neither of them stayed for the ceremony. The rest of the day was amazing, but now the fallout has begun. My parents have been blowing up my phone, accusing me of humiliating them in front of the family. Extended relatives are divided, some say I did the right thing, while others think I overreacted and should have just kept the peace for one day. Even a couple of my friends said I could have handled it more quietly by letting him stay but ignoring him. My wife is 100% on my side, but I can't help feeling conflicted. Am I the a-hole for standing my ground and kicking my parents out of my wedding? Edit for more context, Luke hasn't apologized or even acknowledged the pain he caused me. My parents' idea of reconciliation is pretending the past never happened. Also, my wife and I paid for the wedding ourselves, so my parents had no financial stake in it. And for those of you talking about blocking them, I don't think I am able to do that. They're my parents. Comment A. Not the a-hole. Setting boundaries isn't tearing the family apart, your parents did that by ignoring your pain and trying to force Luke back into your life. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Comment B. Not the a-hole. Blowing up your phone. There's a button for that, block them. 100% not the a-hole and agree with the above. I get that you've made an edit that you can't go no contact because they're your parents, but hun, you can't continue to enable this. What's next? They're gonna bring grandkids into it. When you visit with the kids, your bro is gonna be there with his. When you and your wife go away for work or holidays, they're gonna take the kids to see Uncle Luke because they're family. My egg donor absolutely ruined my wedding, and my husband and I have never forgiven her for it. It was the last straw for me, ass. I've been no contact with her for over a decade, and it was the best decision I ever made. You need to start really thinking about yours and your wife's future. Comnet C. And for those of you talking about blocking them, I don't think I am able to do that. They're my parents. Dude. Your parents already blocked you in real life. They just keep harassing you about it. You don't count. You don't matter. Certainly not as much as Luke does. But you might want to see a therapist. That'll help. Not the a-hole. Comment D. They humiliated themselves by not respecting your wishes at your own wedding. Screw Luke, and screw your parents. Comment E. Not the a-hole. It maddens me when folks think the victim needs to accept reconciliation for family. I think it mostly stems from the fact they are all certain they can't change the a-hole. They knew clearly what your boundaries were. They knew why. And they just wanted to steamroll all that to fix their sensibilities. Seems there's been years they could have been working on the a-hole of the family to mend fences if parents were so concerned. Instead, they thought they could get away with it as you wouldn't make a scene at your own wedding. Pretty unforgivable IMO. Perhaps go no contact with them. Let them know you'll check back around your first anniversary to see if they have learned any remorse. And that remorse would include apologies, promises to never force reconciliation, and no mention of the a-hole. If not, make it 5 more years. Don't let any toxic bullcrap affect your new marriage. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister with childcare after her son bullied mine? So I, 28 female, have a 4-year-old son, Max, with my husband, Tom, 29 male. Max was born with cerebral palsy and needs some accommodations. The main two are his crutches for walking and his AAC. An AAC is an iPad tablet-like device that lets him tap pictures, icons to communicate. Just because he can't physically form the words doesn't mean that he doesn't have meaningful thoughts. He operates and communicates just like any other 4-year-old, and likes to talk about typical things. My sister Jane, 30 female, has 2 kids, James, 10 male, and Lucy, 6 female. Jane is a single parent and works longer hours than both me and Tom. To help her out, James and Lucy take the bus to our house every day. We feed them dinner and make sure they do their homework, stuff like that. Jane comes to collect them between 7 to 8 every night. Well, Wednesday night, the kids were playing as usual when we noticed James start pretending to walk weird and make strange sounds. It was exactly the way that Max walks and talks. Tom immediately told him to cut it out. He kept doing it though, with Lucy laughing. Max started to get upset. Tom called them both out of the family room and scolded them quite severely. He didn't yell or anything, but was firm. James got very quiet and sat at the table until Jane came. Thursday, he did it again. When I asked him why, he said that his mom told him it was okay. My blood boiled. I told him he could sit at the table for the rest of the night. When Jane got there, Tom and I took her into the other room. She said that she didn't see the big deal and that he was just joking. I told her that ableism was never funny, and if her kid couldn't act right, he wasn't welcome anymore. She said I was being overprotective and that people were bound to be mean to Max and he should learn to deal with it early. I told her my 4-year-old should feel safe in his own house and that I wouldn't help her anymore. She said I wouldn't dare, took her kids and left. Friday morning I called the school and told them not to send James and Lucy on the bus to my house. They offer an after-school program that you have to pay for that goes until 7 p.m. When Jane arrived to pick them up, I told her that her kids were at the school. She flew into a panic and left to get them. This morning, I started getting texts. How dare I? What was I thinking? I reminded her she would have to pay the bill and her tone shifted dramatically. Suddenly she was so sorry and that she would talk to James. I told her that the damage had been done and they were no longer welcome. She told me she couldn't afford it. I said it wasn't my problem. Now she's really upset and might have to find another job. Am I the a-hole? Comment A. Not the a-hole. Your sister and nephew both just got natural consequences for their actions. You have a duty to protect your child. On the first night, you corrected the action with the children. Then your sister undermined your authority in your own home. Your sister has gotten too comfortable with you basically co-parenting with her that she felt she had the right to co-parent your child. She doesn't feel badly that your son was hurt by the nephew's actions. She is encouraging her son to act out because she disagrees with your parenting style. When you addressed the issue, she refused to acknowledge her responsibility for her actions. You told her to look for alternative childcare. Yes, the time frame was extremely short, but programs that take care of children can also terminate childcare just as quickly. She isn't remorseful for hurting her nephew. She is upset that her actions had consequences. Comment B. Not the a-hole. You're 100% right that ensuing Max feels safe in his own home is the priority. Sister does not have any genuine remorse for her attitude or the actions of her feral children. She only changed her tune when she realized it was going to cost her money. Family should be a safe place and she has proven that she does not deserve to be part of Max's life. Comment C. Not the a-hole. She's raising bullies and she's fine with it. Now she can pay for it. Please stick to your boundaries. Your son is more important than your broke sister. She thought bullying was funny. Now she can feed her own kids dinner. What an ungrateful person she is. Comment D. Not the a-hole. She encouraged her son to be a bigot and to specifically target his cousin. She's getting all she deserves. Her son is old enough to know better, but the fact she encouraged it tells you all you need to know. Comment E. Not the a-hole. Jane only got sorry when it hit her pocketbook. From a kid with ADHD and likely autism, thank you for sticking up for your kid. It's bad enough getting picked on at school, getting picked on at home would make things so much worse. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my child share a room with their step-sibling? I, a 36 female, have a 10-year-old son, Ethan, from my previous marriage. My partner, Dan, 38 male, moved in with me last year, and he has an 11-year-old daughter, Lila, who stays with us every other week. Ethan and Lila get along well, but they both have their own rooms, which I believe is important for their comfort and privacy. Recently, Dan proposed that we have Ethan and Lila share a room so we can turn the other room into a home office for him. He's been working from the kitchen table and says it's not ideal. While I understand his frustration, I don't think it's fair to ask the kids to give up their individual spaces, especially when they're at an age where privacy and personal boundaries are so important. When I told Dan I wasn't comfortable with the idea, he got upset and said I wasn't willing to compromise to make our blended family work. He argued that it's normal for siblings or step-siblings to share rooms and that the kids will adjust. He also claimed that I'm prioritizing Ethan's comfort over his needs and making him feel like an outsider in the house. I suggested alternatives, like creating a small workspace in our bedroom or rearranging the living room, but Dan dismissed them as impractical. He insists the kids will be fine sharing, especially since Lila is only here part-time, but I know Ethan values having his own space and would likely feel resentful if it were taken away. Now Dan is accusing me of being unreasonable and unwilling to make sacrifices for our relationship. I feel guilty because I want our family dynamic to work, but I also want to protect my son's comfort and well-being. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my child share a room with their step-sibling to make space for a home office? Comment A. No, step-siblings of opposite genders should not be sharing a bedroom as they head into puberty. Not the a-hole. Comment B. Not the a-hole. But you have a boyfriend problem, not a child problem. It's about time to remove the pink glasses and see the rest of the red flags and to rethink all that relationship. Comment C. Absolutely not. He's prioritizing his own comfort over the comfort and potential safety, not saying anything will happen, of the children. If he wants an office, he needs to find an alternative. Comment D. This is a massive red flag. Respond as you see necessary. It was Ethan's house before it was Dan's. The adults should always prioritize the kids. Adolescents need privacy. Putting two opposite-sex adolescents into a room together as they go through puberty is an incredibly bad idea. There are 100 things that could happen, and none of them are good. Dan is ignoring all this and wants what he wants, screw everyone else. And is being a big, manipulative baby about it. Comment E. Not the a-hole. What the hell? It is a big ask for step-siblings of the same sex to share a room, albeit for short bursts, e.g. weekends. It's more reasonable. Equally, if the kids were small, that would also be okay. However, his daughter is just at the age where it is now incredibly inappropriate. Do you really want to be with someone who is so selfish that he doesn't prioritize his own child's privacy over his wants? Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my father-in-law that he cannot arrive at our house at 1 a.m.? My father-in-law is staying with us for 3 weeks over the holidays, which I already find an unacceptable length, but whatever. He told us he was planning on coming up this weekend from Florida. He will be driving. My wife asked him what time he thinks he might be arriving and he said 1 a.m. I said that is unacceptable and that he should leave at a different time or stop along the way and get a hotel. We have 2 young children, 8 months and 3.5 years old. The guest bedroom my father-in-law will be staying at requires him to walk past their rooms. Last thing I need is him coming at 1 a.m., making all sorts of noise and waking up everyone. My wife was talking to my father-in-law and she was pushing back a little bit and I kept quiet until he said there's another way of looking at this, a man coming to visit his family. Like we are lucky to be graces with his presence. I had to chime in and say no, 1 a.m. is unacceptable. He replies, you're entitled to your opinion. The conversation got a bit heated after that comment, with it resulting in him agreeing to arrive at a normal time. Now my wife is trying to guilt trip me into being the bad guy for making him arrive at a normal time. Am I the a-hole? Comment A. It feels like there is more to the dynamic. To me, if my parents or my in-laws were arriving at a late hour, my husband or I would wait or wake up to greet them and help them get settled. Neither set of parents would be loudly bumbling by our kids' room and waking them up. I don't know if your kids are extremely light sleepers, your walls are paper thin, your father-in-law an excessively loud man, or a combo. Or maybe that's not really a key issue here after all. Not sure. I'd rather our parents come to our house than head to a hotel at such an hour because I'd worry about them. I don't know how long the drive is and am taking it in good faith that father-in-law has logical reasons for the drive time. For my fam, more relatives fly versus drive. We are a close family and everyone tries to find the most convenient travel times, but also sometimes ticket costs and such lead to odd arrival times. For us, no biggie. We adjust. But that's built into our family dynamic and may not be built into yours. I'd also love 3 weeks for a visit. That feels like a treat. But again, I recognize my family dynamics aren't necessarily that of others. Ultimately, it's your and your wife's house, so you should jointly decide this matter. I'm curious about her take on all this. If she is unhappy as you say, guilt-tripping you into being the bad guy, there may be more to it than we can see here. For instance, I'd be upset if I welcomed my parents' arrival at whatever time and my husband was overruling me, so to speak. I'd also be upset if my husband spoke to my parents in a disrespectful manner even if the general message was one with which I agreed. Not saying this is what happened in the scenario with your wife, we don't know that. But noting that there may be reasons why your wife is upset that aren't about inconveniencing your father-in-law. I hope this smooths out and you can enjoy family time, OP. Take care and happy holidays. Comment B. How fragile are you and your kids that drone walking past a room is an unacceptable disturbance? The tone of your whole post sounds like you don't want him at all and you're reaching for excuses. Why is everything so unacceptable? Your wife doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Comment C. My buddy drove around 8 hours to see family and he got in at like 2 or 3 a.m. and all they did was have one family member stay up to wait for the arrival while everyone else slept. They weren't upset about the arrival time, they were excited he was coming to visit. I don't understand the issue if there's an agreement that that is a late time to show up, only one person may be awake when father-in-law shows up and he needs to be quiet since everyone's asleep. The biggest annoyance would be if you'll had to work the next day and this was way too inconvenient and then I'd be inclined to agree, but going through the house late at night doesn't seem like a big enough deal to have arguments over it. You cause a scene. Comment D. Oh hell no, not the a-hole. Visitors need to show a little bit of respect for the occupants of a home. 1 a.m. is a ridiculous time to arrive to a household with young children, no matter what the familial relationship is. Your father-in-law does not own the house, nor does he live there. He needs to understand that he does not set the rules, you and your wife do. Edit to add, if a man visiting his family is so damn important, then he can adjust his travel times and arrive at a decent hour, which you noted he did, after complaining about it. Comment E. You are the a-hole. He's driving to come see your family. Who cares what time he arrives, as long as he makes it safe? It's incredible. What people will complain about.
Thank you for hearing in her. Consider like and subscribe the video if you enjoy it. See you next time.